You're listening to the Get Out of Your Own Damn Way podcast, episode number 98. Do you trust yourself to make the right decisions? Check out this week's episode all about self-trust. Welcome to the Get Out of Your Own Damn Way podcast. I'm your host, Krylyn Peters. Each week, I bring you inspiring messages to help you create the life you're meant to lead. Buckle up, buttercups. In last week's episode, I talked all about second guessing, which often happens after we make a decision, which I also did a recent episode about. So if you'd missed those, feel free to go back and check them out. But one of the points I made in last week's episode about second guessing was to trust yourself and to trust that you know what's best for you as one of the anecdotes to second guessing yourself. But it got me to thinking, how many of us really trust ourselves? How many of us really trust others fully and completely and trust that we're safe in the world? So I have some additional questions for you, and I want you to just think about these and answer them in your head or out loud, whatever makes sense for you. So here we go. First question, do you secretly or not so secretly wonder if you really know what's best for you? Think about that. The next question is, do you question your life and how you got to where you are now? Another thought-provoking question. And question number 3 is this: do you have a hard time trusting other people? So I want you to think about those 3 questions and how you would answer them. And if you've answered yes to 1, 2, or all 3 of those questions, you likely have some issues with trust. But that's all right, because that's what we're going to talk about today. Trust. What is it? How do we lose it? And how do we gain it back? So this episode, I'm going to focus mostly on what trust is. And I looked it up in the Oxford Dictionary, and it came with 4 parts, which I call the 4 pillars of trust. So I'm going to go over these, and we're going to talk a little bit about how we can regain trust back. And I'm really talking about our self-trust, because here's one of the biggest things that I have learned in my journey, that when I am doubting other people, when I'm mistrusting other people, it really boils down to me not trusting myself, me not trusting that I know what's right for me, or that I am picking people that are good for me in my life, that might be a good fit or a bad fit. And for those of you who've been around a while, you know that I do a lot of comparison to dating. So my wheels are turning in my head, and I'm starting to think about dating situations, because I have started to dabble a little bit more in dating recently again. So these are things that are coming up for me as well. So trust is something that is imperative. So when we start to kind of question other people, we really need to take a look at ourselves first. Are we really trusting ourselves? And like I said, I've done a lot of episodes recently on making decisions and getting through procrastination, learning the lessons of procrastination, as well as how to get over that second guessing that happens. And this self-trust issue kept coming up as I was going through those episodes and creating the content for you guys. So I wanted to do this special episode too about what trust is. So I'm going to go over these 4 pillars of trust. So I'm going to quickly name them. They are reliability, truth, ability, and strength. So those are the 4 pillars of trust. So let's break that down a little bit. Reliability. This is about consistency and integrity. This is about us doing what we say we're going to do. So if I'm going to take this example of dating, one of my pet peeves, just so you know, is when somebody does not do what they say they're going to do. That's kind of a deal breaker for me. And I used to give a lot of chances with men who didn't do what they said they were going to do. I would give them the benefit of the doubt. And that's certainly has its place. But when I'm getting to know someone, if they quickly show me that they are not in integrity, that they don't keep their word, I'm out. So that's a deal breaker for me. But now let's turn that around. So as far as self-trust, are we keeping our word to ourselves? When we make a commitment, do we honor that commitment? Or do we put it off? Do we make excuses? Do we just kind of blow it off, procrastinate, or distract ourselves from actually getting things done? So we got to take a look at that. So that's the first pillar of trust. The second pillar is truth. And this is really simply what it is. It's being honest with ourselves. And this can get a little tricky because we want to believe, right? We want to believe that we know what we want, that we are going to go after it, that we're committed, we're going to do what it takes. However, and I've talked about this in recent episodes too, when we don't do something, it could mean that we really don't want to do it. And that's okay, but we do need to own up to it. So it's really looking at our truth head on, accepting what we do want and accepting what we don't want. So that's pillar number 2. Pillar number 3 of trust is ability. And ability is really about knowing what we can do and what we can't do. It's about knowing what we're really good at and what we're not so good at, and just accepting it for what it is. We've all got really wonderful skills and talents. And here's the good news is that we don't all have the same skills and talents, which means that we can complement each other. So one person might have this skill set and I have this other skill set, and together it's magic. And sometimes we are attracted to people who have a similar skill set, and then we have these common interests. So there's a lot of beauty to be found with differences and similarities in the ability pillar. So that's pillar number 3. And pillar number 4 of trust is strength. And in terms of trust in this definition, what I mean by strength is our capacity to do something. And the translation for that means, how do we handle adversity? So it's our capacity to meet demands that seem beyond what we can handle sometimes. So what do we do in the face of challenge or of adversity or of change? How do we respond to that? Strength is what happens when we are able to overcome what seems like maybe impossible odds at sometimes, and just keep moving towards what we want. So those are the 4 pillars of trust. And if you can begin keeping your word to yourself, being honest with yourself, accepting what you can and can't do, and also keep moving forward in the face of adversity, you are going to go a long way towards trusting yourself. And trust is built upon action. So you can't just think about, oh, well, what would I do if this happened? You actually have to do it. Trust is built upon your action. So keep making small steps, and before you know it, you are going to be all over yourself, loving how much you trust yourself. To dive even deeper into this whole idea of self-trust, join me inside my membership program, Krylyn, where I'll show you 4 tips to trusting yourself in the latest video training. I've also got tons of other trainings, meditations, recorded group coaching calls, and my original healing music, all designed to help you turn potentially ass-kicking breakdowns into kick-ass breakthroughs. You can join today for just a $1 trial offer, but only for a limited time. Just head to the link below and join Krylyn today. But meanwhile, get out there and get to trusting. Thanks for listening to the Get Out of Your Own Damn Way podcast. If you've been inspired, please share the podcast with your friends. You can find us on iTunes or at Krylyn.com. KRYLYN.com.